Bonjour, bonjour. We are looking at the present tense of falloir. Devoir has an impersonal cousin. To be necessary, to need to have to. Falloir. Falloir is a bit of a goody-goody gumdrops. It's impersonal because it only exists in the third person singular. Il faut in the present tense. Here, il is an impersonal snob who is rather aloof. Il often means it and not he in circumstances like this. It can be tricky for speakers of English because falloir can actually be translated in many ways. The most useful one I find is to use it's necessary to. Even though it's not used a lot in spoken English, it helps you to use falloir correctly. But other ways that sound more natural in English to translate il faut que could be we have to, or we need to, or you or one has to or needs to. Falloir is used a lot, and falloir is Monsieur Cliché. We met falloir in the present perfect, the past tense, using avoir. Avoir fallu. Il a fallu. Just one conjugation. How would you say it was necessary to avoid them? This is the past tense. Il a fallu les éviter. It was necessary to avoid him. Il a fallu l'éviter. It was necessary to avoid her. Same again. Il a fallu l'éviter. In the imperfect, falloir is il fallait. One conjugation. It was cold, so it was necessary to put on a coat. Il faisait froid. Donc ou alors, il fallait mettre un manteau. You had to be there. It was necessary to be there. Il fallait être là. You had to reserve. Il fallait réserver. Back to the present tense. We have to leave now. Il faut partir maintenant. So it's always il faut. D'accord? You have to reserve at that restaurant. Il faut réserver à ce restaurant-là. You mustn't do it like that. Il ne faut pas le faire comme ça. Mr. Cliché time. It's necessary to work to live. A bit like Captain Obvious. Il faut travailler pour vivre. So when to implies in order to, we use pour in French. It's necessary to eat to live. Il faut manger pour vivre. It's necessary to eat well to have good health. Il faut bien manger pour avoir une bonne santé. You have to start somewhere. Il faut commencer quelque part. In case you hadn't noticed, we've been using il faut plus the infinitive. Let's look at some infinitives. To manage, like to manage a company. Gérer. Imagine trying to manage Tom and Jerry. Gérer. Gérer. Unmanageable, I think. To snack. To nibble. To munch on. Grignoter. grignoter. Gris, gris is the colour grey in French, like this grey rabbit, gris. And he's going to note down all his little snacks. Grignoter, ER verb. Courir, to run. You probably know that one. To exaggerate, exagérer. With one G in French, exagérer. The French love to use this. N'exagère pas. Vous exagérez. You exaggerate. You're going too far. To touch, toucher. To spend, this is to spend money or to spend energy. Dépenser. To spend time is passer, passer le temps. To admit, admettre. D'accord. It's necessary to run or you have to run. Il faut courir. Risk is risque, masculine. You have to run the risk. Il faut courir le risque. Sometimes. Des fois ou parfois. Sometimes you have to run the risk. Des fois ou parfois, il faut courir le risque. You must never run with an injury. Il ne faut jamais courir avec une blessure. You have to listen to your mother. Addressing to. Il faut écouter ta mère. You mustn't exaggerate. Il ne faut pas exagérer. Sometimes you have to exaggerate. Des fois, parfois, il faut exagérer. You mustn't be afraid. You mustn't have fear. Il ne faut pas avoir peur. You must not touch. Il ne faut pas toucher. What is to snack, to nibble, to munch on? The colour grey like this rabbit. And note down your snacks. Grignoter. You mustn't snack between meals. Il ne faut pas grignoter entre les repas. On French adverts, often after snack adverts, they'll put this. Il est déconseillé de grignoter entre les repas. It is not advised to snack between meals. You have to spend less to save money, to make economies. Il faut moins dépenser pour faire des économies. Using vous. If you make a mistake, you have to admit it. It is necessary. Si vous faites une erreur ou une gaffe, il faut l'admettre. You mustn't pretend to not understand like that. Il ne faut pas faire semblant de ne pas comprendre comme ça. Here we are going to look at something a bit fancy. We're going to look at il faut plus the infinitive using indirect objects to specify a person. This is a little bit fancy, but you do come across it, especially if you like to read in French. For example, il nous faut vendre la maison en France. Okay, if you're not familiar with this construct, you could get this meaning wrong because it means we need to sell the house in France. You could think of it as it is necessary for us to sell the house in France because the indirect object pronouns are the Chuckle Brother ones. The to you, to me, for him, for her, etc. Il lui faut acheter du pain. What's that one then? Okay. He needs to buy some bread. It is necessary for him to buy some bread. Il leur faut demander à leur mère. They need to ask their mother. It is necessary for them to ask their mother. In the following examples, these are not so fancy. This is more commonly used in spoken French. The last lot we're using il faut plus a verb. These ones are using il faut plus a noun and indirect object pronouns. So have a guess. Il me faut une nouvelle voiture de sport. Okay, this is a bit more needy. I need a new sports car. Qu'est-ce qu'il lui faut? Remember, lui can mean two things. What does he or what does she need? Il lui faut un couteau. He or she needs a knife. So how do you say it? What does he need? Qu'est-ce qu'il lui faut? He needs a knife. Il lui faut un couteau. What does she need? Qu'est-ce qu'il lui faut? Again. Il lui faut une fourchette. She needs a fork. So couteau is masculine, fourchette is feminine. Et words are all feminine, apart from squelette, skeleton, which is masculine. What do they need? Qu'est-ce qu'il leur faut? They need a fork. Il leur faut une fourchette. Do they need a knife? Il leur faut un couteau? Non, il leur faut une cuillère. No, they need a spoon. Cuillère. What do you need addressing to? Qu'est-ce qu'il te faut? I need a spoon. Il me faut une cuillère. What do you need addressing vous? Qu'est-ce qu'il vous faut? We need a fork. Il nous faut une fourchette. Il leur faut des couverts? Do they need any cutlery? You can think of it as covers. People who work in restaurants talk about how many covers, how many sets of cutlery. No, they need a bread knife. Non, il leur faut un couteau à pain. Did you say couteau de pain? Because if you did, you have just said a knife made of bread, which is pretty ineffective, by the way. So often when you talk about the function of something in French, you will say à in the middle. Couteau à pain. Il leur faut une cuillère à soupe. Do they need a soup spoon? No, they need a teaspoon. Now here, the French much prefer coffee to tea, so they don't call it a teaspoon, they call it a coffee spoon. Non, il leur faut une cuillère à café. So une tasse de café is a cup of coffee. A cup filled with coffee. But how would you say a coffee cup? A cup whose function it is to have coffee in it. You need a instead. Une tasse à café. So a cup of coffee with coffee in it. Une tasse de café. And a coffee cup is une tasse à café. So de either means what's in it or what it's made of. Speakers of French often, and I mean often, use falloir with que. Falloir que. The big trouble is, it has to be followed with the subjunctive mood. This means some new endings need to be learnt. Yay! Is that some cheering I hear? We will learn these in some detail another time, but for now, here's a summary. The mysterious subjunctive. The subjunctive mood stands for mode, like the way you speak. The subjunctive mood used to be used a lot more in English, but nowadays it is used little or often incorrectly. It is used for airy fairy statements, for wishes. I wish I were in France, not I was. It is also used after the word that, for making requests, giving advice. I wouldn't do that if I were you, not was you. I fear that he will not come. We ask that she not take the towels. It's all very philosophical and idealistic stuff. Here's our philosopher. The philosophical subjunctive. This fella represents the subjunctive. He represents obligations, necessity, emotions, wishes and desires, hopes, fears, doubts, suggestions, uncertainties, possibilities, and opinions. It's all rather airy, fairy, not concrete. So the normal present tense is used for what you believe to be true. The subjunctive is for things that are uncertain, unsure, wishes, desires, wants, fears, doubts. Il faut que brings up the subjunctive. The present subjunctive is formed by taking the third person plural, which means the il, elle, the they form, in the present tense. We take off that annoying ent ending and you're left with your stem. Bye-bye, ent. And now we add on our special subjunctive endings. These are the endings e, ese, ions, iez, and the ent comes back at the end. So actually, these are the same endings, except for nous and vous. These are the same endings as for the present tense of regular ER verbs. The only difference is that with the nous and the vous conjugation, we are sticking in the letter I. So e, ese, ions, iez, ent. Il faut que je lui donne ses clés. I have to give him his keys. Il faut que tu lui donnes ses clés. You have to give him his keys. Il faut qu'il ou qu'elle ou qu'on lui donne ses clés. Il faut que nous lui donnions ses clés. Il faut que vous lui donniez ses clés. Il faut qu'il ou qu'elle lui donne, silent ent, ses clés. You can spell clé two different ways. Sound the same though. How boring would language learning be without exceptions? Some of the exceptions you will recognise from when we did the imperative, the command, the bossy boot sergeant major. Let's look at être. Il faut que je sois sûr. It is necessary that I be sure. Il faut que tu sois sûr. Il faut qu'il ou qu'elle soit sûr. Il faut que nous soyons sûrs. Il faut que vous soyez sûrs. And this one sounds like the first three. Il faut qu'il ou qu'elle soit sûr. So we had soit with the imperative. Be nice. Sois gentil or soyez gentil. Let's be nice. Soyons gentils. The other usual suspect exceptions in the subjunctive mood have to be learnt as, of course, they are the commonly used verbs. So we will go into all of the subjunctive in a lot more detail another day. But if you're the kind of person who likes to get ahead of the game, these are the ones. So avoir in the subjunctive, ayant, ayez, et. Être, just done it. Soit, soyons, soyez, sois. Pouvoir, it's a funny one this. Puisse, puissions, puissiez, puisse. Savoir, look at the owl with its little sash on. Oh, sache, sachions, sachiez, sache. Faire, face, fassions, fassiez, face. Allez, this sounds like you've hurt yourself or you're talking about garlic. Aïe. Then it changes. Allions, alliez, aïe. Vouloir, veuille. Voulions, vouliez, veuille. Some of them follow that pattern for the je, tu, il, elle, on. But then the nous one will say, no, we don't want to use the il, elle stem. We want to use our own stem. For example, venir, vienne. Venions, veniez, vienne. Tenir, tienne. Tenions, teniez, tienne. Prendre, prenne. Prenions, preniez, prenne. Devoir, doivent. Devions, deviez, doivent. Voir, voyons, voyez, voix. Croire, croix. Croyons, croyez, croix. And boire, boivent. Buvions, buviez, boivent. Subjunctive. Even if this is too much to learn, you can say them to yourself a few times to familiarize yourself with the sounds and hopefully recognize them. Because if you listen to French, you will hear them all the time. So stick the radio on and listen out for those funny ones. Vous pouvez éviter le subjonctif en utilisant devoir plus l'infinitif. You can avoid the subjunctive by using devoir and the infinitive. For example, I have to know using the subjunctive. Il faut que je sache. But you can just say instead, je dois savoir. You have to do it, you have to make it. Using the subjunctive, il faut que tu le fasses. Ou que vous le fassiez. Tu dois le faire. Vous devez le faire. You can also avoid using falloir que, for example, il faut que je parte. I have to leave. It's necessary that I leave. You could use it with just the infinitive, but you take out the que. Il faut partir. And remember I said in a bit of fancy French, sometimes you'll get those objects inserted. Il me faut partir. It is necessary for me to leave. Or you could use avoir besoin de. That's a popular one too. J'ai besoin de partir. I have need of leaving. Or devoir. Je dois partir. And the following ones you may hear in more formal situations. Par exemple, il est essentiel que je parte. It's essential that I leave. Essentiel que, bing, also brings up the subjunctive. Or you could stick in again the me. Il m'est essentiel de partir. Or Nessie likes to bring up the subjunctive as well. Il est nécessaire que je parte. Or, if you want to avoid the subjunctive, il m'est or il est nécessaire de partir. Et voilà les amis. I know that may have been a bit of a head spinner, but go over it again and then maybe come back to it in a few weeks or a few months after you've done a bit of listening and reading in French. All will become clearer with exposure. Merci beaucoup. À la prochaine fois. Au revoir.